Tonight on Texas News Channel, a recap on the elections in Texas,
a look at a UT student petition,
and the potential changes in the William C. Powers Student Activity Center.
You're watching Texas News Channel,
your leader for live local UT coverage. Good evening and welcome to Texas News Channel. For Tuesday, November 10th, I'm Alexa Sherry.
And I'm Nicki Miller. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Texas had a number of important elections on the ballot last week. First up, the race for U.S. Senator Republican incumbent John Cornyn successfully defended his seat against Democratic challenger M.J. Hager. This will be Senator Cornyn's fourth term in the Senate. Texas also had its 36 seats in the House of Representatives up for grabs. 23 of those seats went to Republicans, while 13 went to Democrats. The districts surrounding Austin remained primarily Republican-held. Democratic incumbent Lloyd Doggett maintained his seat in the Texas 35th, making him the only Democratic representative whose district includes part of the Austin area. The 10th, 21st, and 25th congressional districts, which all include areas surrounding campus, all went to Republicans. Republican Michael McCall won the 10th, Republican Chip Roy won the 21st, and Republican Roger Williams won in the 25th. All three districts saw new Democrat contenders in Mike Siegel, Wendy Davis, and Julie Oliver, beefing up their resumes for future runs.
Austin City Council had 5 seats open this election. Incumbents Leslie Poole and Greg Kassler both reclaimed their seats in Districts 4 and 7. Vanessa Fuentes won the District 2 seat, which had no incumbent running. The District 6 race is headed for a runoff between incumbent Jimmy Flanagan and challenger Mackenzie Kelly. District 10 will also be a runoff between incumbent Allison Alter and challenger Jennifer Verdon. The 2 runoff races will be held December 15th.
Over 680 students have petitioned the university to give them the option to pass-fail their classes for this fall semester. James Napoli, the sophomore who created the petition, says it was meant to help the students struggling with the workload of online school during COVID-19. Despite the hundreds of students who have signed the petition, the university has no stated plans on changing its policy.
University Housing and Dining will be taking over all of the dining locations at the Texas Union and the Student Activity Centers next year. Aramark, the company that previously ran the dining locations, has decided to end their contract this December. This change comes with a bit of good news for students. The dining locations will all take dine-in dollars, and the university plans to seek feedback from students about what brands they'd like to see at those locations.
The crime in West Campus has been spiking recently, ranging from home break-ins to students being held at gunpoint. I went to take a look at what actions the university and other concerned patrons are taking in response to the rise in crime. 4 years ago, University of Texas student Haruka Weiser's murder and UT Harrison Brown's fatal stabbing on campus caused many concerns about safety. However, president of the nonprofit Safe Horns organization, Joelle McNew, says there should be more technology, like cameras and call boxes, placed in West Campus to protect students.
If we are short-staffed of police officers, the students who had the home invasion said it was 13 to 15 minutes. That is extremely concerning.
Since the home invasion in West Campus 2 weeks ago, a string of robberies and other break-ins occurred. A man held UT student Claire Inge at gunpoint last Monday night as she walked home from a study group.
A man approached me with a gun and told me to drop my bag. Then I started screaming, and I remember nobody was around at the time of the incident, but there were some girls that came up and called 911 and came up to help me after it.
Inge says her mugging occurred last that night. She says UT incorrectly reported her incident 2 hours off.
I think that the school or APD could have done a lot to prevent this, because there were 4 incidents that happened that night.
UTPD Assistant Chief Sheets says once you cross over from the UT campus past Guadalupe Street, The West Campus area is no longer under UTPD's watch.
But we're going to take action and support anytime there's an incident in that area involving a UT student, staff, or faculty member.
Assistant Chief Sheets says the new satellite office near the drag holds APD, DPS troopers, and UTPD. Here, the officers can do shift briefings, write reports, and host meetings with student groups.
Check out your window, look outside, you're going to see more patrols in that neighborhood.
If you ever feel in danger, Assistant Chief Sheets says you should always call 911. Alexa Sherry, Texas News Channel.
In local election news, both Proposition A and Proposition B passed here in Austin. Proposition A is a property tax hike that will contribute $7.1 billion to a plan to expand Austin Transit. The plan includes the creation of a light rail system connecting downtown, North and South Austin, and the airport. Proposition B is also a property tax hike. It goes to funding a $460 million plan to improve mobility and transportation infrastructure. Both propositions praised fairly easily. Proposition A passed with a 57.9% approval, while Proposition B received 67.1% approval.
Over the past year, drug violations at the university have decreased by 58%. Alcohol violations have decreased 14% as well, according to the Drug-Free Schools and Community Act Biennial Review. The review made recommendations including creating a task force to oversee implementation and assessment of UT's drug and alcohol programming.
Campus leaders began the design and construction on the new Heman M. Sweat entrance to Painter Hall. Heman Sweat was the first African-American student to attend UT after he challenged his rejection to the university in the U.S. Supreme Court in 1950. Theophilus Painter was the president of UT at the time of Sweat's admittance to the university. Many students are questioning whether President Jay Hartzell should rename Painter Hall as well. Some students also argue that the subsection dedicated to Sweat is an afterthought and degrading. President Hartzell has not yet shown signs of changing his plans for the building.
Last Tuesday, arguably one of the most important elections took place in modern U.S. history. With the election has come a flood of news and information. Our Cameron Trout examined some of the biggest news stories surrounding the election.
For what seemed like years, everyone waited on pins and needles for the result of the 2020 presidential election. Going into this election, it was already known that it would be historic. From a global pandemic pushing record numbers of voters to use mail-in ballots, to an incumbent president making no promise to concede the election in the case that he lost, it goes without saying that a lot of eyes were on what would come. Throughout the days following last Tuesday, many states were called that were expected for both candidates, and as the days wore on, the swing states revealed themselves in three major areas: the Rust Belt, the Southwest, and the Southeast. Arguably the most important, the Rust Belt, including Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, all had Trump leading in in-person voting, but saw Biden come back and take them all with the counting of absentee ballots. As votes continued to be counted, Biden seemed to take the clear lead, scooping up the Rust Belt and the Southwest swing states. On Saturday, Biden was declared to be the president-elect by all major news sources with the most votes for a candidate ever in history, after he secured Pennsylvania and its 20 electoral votes. Trump has yet to concede, unlike any president in the past, and has filed 11 lawsuits in 5 of the swing states as of right now. He has spread claims without evidence on his Twitter several times about the Democrats stealing the election and inciting his followers to stop the count. Multiple Republicans have taken to distancing themselves from President Trump, notably former President George W. Bush, who released a statement congratulating Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. The vote counting has not stopped yet, and several recounts are being requested by the GOP. So this is not the end of your election news just yet, even though I'm sure you are all exhausted from last week. For Texas News Channel, I'm Cameron Trout.
This past weekend, Kamala Harris became the first woman and person of color to be elected vice president on a presidential ticket. Mrs. Harris is the daughter of a Jamaican father and Indian mother. This comes on the 100th anniversary of U.S. women's voting rights being granted in the 19th Amendment. Kamala spoke about the struggle for women's rights in her vice presidential acceptance speech, stressing that she would surely not be the last woman to assume such a position.
But while I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says experts will know by early December if a potential coronavirus vaccine is safe and effective. Yet, widespread availability will not happen until 2021, as the number of doses will not be enough to vaccinate everyone. He believes our society will have a return to some sense of normalcy in the third and fourth quarter of 2021. As we begin to enter into the colder seasons, the CDC advises to wear your mask and wash your hands.
Last Friday, Today Show weatherman Al Roker told the public of his recent prostate cancer diagnosis. He credits making this information public to inform that 1 in 9 men will be diagnosed with this disease in their lifetime. He says the good news is that he caught it early. He is scheduled to have surgery this upcoming week at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City. Al is hopeful to return to the Today Show in around 2 weeks.
After a routine checkup in September, turns out I have prostate cancer. And it's a good news, bad news kind of thing. And good news is we caught it early. Not great news is that it's a little aggressive. So I'm going to be taking some time off to take care of this. And it's one of those things that it's a little more common than people, I think, realize.
Yesterday, the Austin Police Department addressed a 10-year high in homicides in Austin. Some, including Governor Greg Abbott, have credited the rise in crime on efforts to defund the police department. In addition to a rise in crime, Texas has seen a rise in firearm purchases. Data from the FBI shows that purchases of firearms typically increase after elections.
Speaking of post-election, Joe Biden supporters came to parade at the Capitol this past weekend. On the other side were Trump supporters who were there to show their support of the president. Alexa and I talked with UT student Lauren Seltzer, who was at the Biden rally, and UT student Max Gregory, who was at the Trump rally.
People were blasting music, people were honking their car horns, and it was just such a palpable energy, and it was so much fun.
Being there as not an outsider, but just someone on more middle-footed ground, it was just very easy, like very enjoyable, entertaining, honestly, to just watch both sides kind of go back and forth. You had a lot of cars coming through to parade, express their support for the different side of the argument. And
it will be interesting to see the political climate in Texas over the next several weeks as the election is finalized.
Coming up on Texas News Channel, Maggie Wolanski will be bringing you up to date on the world of business.
So stay tuned and we'll catch you after the break.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Maggie Wolanski with your business updates. Let's get into it. A group of 2020 UT graduates are now able to see their Kendra Scott jewelry designs both in-store and online, serving as a part of their class project for the Textile and Apparel 365 course, which is offered as part of UT's new Kendra Scott Women Entrepreneurial Leadership Institute. Anita Gamarian, Tanji Pei, Julia Sotelo, Sarah Kopanek, and Pinar Sarliar created the Ciarla ear cuff. Students who took the course expressed how they learned so much from the fashion industry, and many of them wish to work in more projects like these in the future. And now for your weekly update on the stock market. Following the election results announced this past Saturday, stocks began rising in overnight trading on Sunday. Many traders had put bets on markets volatility in November and started unwinding those positions. The Dow rose 1,415 points yesterday, leading them to surpass their previous record set in February. The S&P 500 jumped 3.5%. The Tesla brand sold out their new Tesla tequila for $250 before Elon Musk could get to his keyboard to tweet it. The product is not even in consumers' hands, but is being sold 4 times its original price on online auction websites. This sellout clearly shows the extent of brand loyalty among Tesla fanatics. Tesla is slowly climbing up in brand valuation rankings. And that's your business update. I'm Maggie Wolanski reporting live from the Business Center. Let's head on over to Kelsey Leffingwell for weather.
Will the sunshine be here to stay this week? Stay tuned to find out after the break. Welcome back, Texas News Channel. After seeing lots of days of 70 and 80-degree heat, it looks like this week won't get any cooler. For tonight, you can expect the temperature to reach a low of 54 with mostly clear skies. Tomorrow, expect for the high to reach up to 82 with a low of 56 going into Wednesday night. Thursday and Friday, prepare for those highs to be in the low 80s with lows being in the low 60s. Going into this weekend, we can expect for that heat to continue with highs in the mid-80s and lows in the 50s and 60s at night. On Saturday, there's a 40% chance of rain, but that clears out by Sunday and the clear skies will return. That's all from me. Live from the Weather Center, I'm Kelsey Leffingwell.
Thanks, Kelsey. And now looking at UT sports. This past Saturday, the Texas Longhorns took on the West Virginia Mountaineers for an early afternoon matchup, with Texas coming away with a 17-13 win. Olivia Guzman has more from DKR.
After making an appearance in the AP Top 25 this season, Texas welcomed the West Virginia Mountaineers to DKR for an early afternoon game. With the 17-13 win against the Mountaineers, Texas sent West Virginia on those country roads all the way home. But the win was not ideal. Texas quarterback Sam Ehlinger still sees room for improvement even after the win.
Won some really close games, but we're also not playing our best football, which is encouraging, but also frustrating at the same time because we know we're not even anywhere close to how good we can be, but we're still finding ways to win.
Although the Longhorns seek improvement, one player stood out amongst the rest, true freshman running back Bijan Robinson. Ever since he was recruited by Texas, fans have called Bijan the next Ricky Williams, someone that he looks up to as a mentor.
No, I'm still just a freshman, just trying to find my way in college football. I talk to him, here and there, and he just says, just stay humble, stay on the grind, and, things will come. But for me, I'm just learning as much as I can and just got to work hard every day to keep improving my skills to, try to do those kind of things.
The hunger doesn't just stick to Bijan, but is contagious through the entire Texas squad. After an unideal performance from Ehlinger, he is looking to get back to the basics of the game to further develop the team.
When I try to aim the ball, that's when I'm not playing myself. I just got to let it rip and let those guys make plays down the field.
After the win against West Virginia, Texas sits 4-2 in the Big 12. The Longhorns seem to be setting a pattern of taking games down to the wire. Head coach Tom Herman sees this pattern following through for the rest of the 2020 season.
Guys, this is the way it's going to be all year. We're going to get better this bye week. We got a ton better in the bye week leading up to the Baylor game. We're a much different team at this point, but we are going to be a work in progress.
Texas has their third bye week of the season and will face Kansas in Lawrence on November 21st. Reporting from DKR, I am Olivia Guzman, TSTV Sports.
And joining us tonight is Clark Walton. Welcome, Clark. One of the big storylines of this game was freshman running back Bijan Robinson showing the potential that he has. With all the flash he brought to Saturday's game, do you think Robinson has earned the right to be the new starting running back for Texas?
It's great to be on, and Bijan Robinson has earned that right to be the starting running back for Texas. Every game you've seen incremental improvements, and he's the first running back this season to pass the 100-yard mark against a team that was one of the best defenses in the Big 12. We know he has the potential and confidence to be a great player. I think if he gets a chance, Robinson has an opportunity to be a marquee star for Texas.
So as Texas inches their way back into the Big 12 title hunt, what are the biggest things Texas needs to change in order to get to Arlington in December?
The things they need to change if they want to get to Arlington is they need to use their run game more effectively on offense. Relying on Sam Ehlinger too much can put him at risk of injury. They are getting better defensively, but they're still a little bit susceptible to the deep ball and penalties. As for the emotional side, they just need to continue to use the early season anger and frustration to fuel a flame that leads to winning.
And this week, Texas has another bye week, their third of the year. How have you seen Texas regroup after each bye week, and what makes this bye week different than the previous ones?
I think it's become a strength within their program. You notice with Texas, they have this ability to regroup for a quick tune-up and fix the bugs. This bye week is different, though, because they're heading in with a positive direction. There's not as much chatter around the team. Just, why aren't they winning as many games? And I think they will play well next time they set foot on the field.
Well, thanks for coming on, Clark. Up next is Megan Fee with entertainment. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Texas News Channel. I'm Megan Fee. Alex Trebek, longtime host of Jeopardy, died at the age of 80 after a battle with pancreatic cancer. Trebek hosted over 8,000 episodes in 37 seasons of Jeopardy, which is the most of any presenter of any single TV game show. His last day in the studio was October 29th, and Sony states that the last episode hosted by Trebek is set to air on Christmas Day. Jeopardy's Twitter page shared that Trebek passed away peacefully at home, surrounded by his friends and family. This past weekend, Johnny Depp was dropped from the Fantastic Beasts movie franchise after losing a libel case against a tabloid that labeled him a wife-beater. Depp spoke up on his Instagram about Warner Bros. Movie studio asking him to leave his villain role and says, quote, "I have respected and agreed to that request. The role will soon be recast so production can be resumed as normal." This past week has been a news whirlwind, but the recent Bachelorette episode did not fail to top entertainment headlines. Bachelorette Claire Crawley made the unprecedented step to end her season after just 4 short weeks. Her and contestant Dale Moss became engaged in this shocking episode, much to the surprise of Chris Harrison and viewers all around the country. Remaining contestants and fans were left to wonder what happens next. Well, the wait is over. Former contestant on The Bachelor, Tasia Adams, is picking up right where Claire left off with the remaining men. The end of this episode previewed her arrival to the resort, but we'll have to wait for the next episode to see how this all plays out. That's it for me. I'm Megan Fee. Back to you.
Thanks, Megan. And as always, we thank you for tuning in.
You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Texas News TSDB.
If you have a news tip, you can reach us on all our social media sites or email us at news@texasstudenttv.com.
You can catch Good Morning Texas Wednesdays at 7 a.m. I'm Nicki Miller.
And I'm Alexa Sherry. From all of us at TNC, good night, and we'll see you next week.